Hello, everybody. Yeah, you can hear me. We thought this would be an idea because when we talk, it's better than when we listen. Sometimes, it's just better than when we listen. I sat around with one of the things I do in my spare time is I'm involved with the Stonehouse Wholesale Group, and one of the things we did when we were sitting down to write our strategy was to share. What have you done in the last 2 years? Maybe in the last 5 years, what are the two best things you've done? And we just talked. And it was an incredibly open session, probably more open than people were heretofore, because sometimes we stay quite quiet about stuff. So we thought we'd get three very reputable people and talk. Yeah. So if that's okay. Yeah. So I'll start with you, Emma, if that's okay. So tell us a little bit about Glenhaven and what's the best couple of things you've done in the last few years?
I'm from Glenhaven. It's
do that because I'm not sure. Is that picking you up? It is, okay. Yeah, you have it.
So it's a second generation family business started by my parents in 1986. Myself and my brother came back into the business about 4 years ago. And we mainly produce frozen kosher poultry. We do food service, a lot of food service, a lot of private label. But in the last 4 years, we've really focused on our brand, which is a passion of mine. I come from an advertising background. I was originally a copywriter. So it's been my goal to get back to the business and focus on the brand and build our brand. So it's been just a joy to do that. So I started doing the rebrand, probably started like 2020, in the middle of COVID. And it really, like, the big thing that we did that I think is one of those elements that made the biggest difference was to focus on the truth behind the brand, which that is that it's a family business, and to kind of really champion that and focus on our family's passion and obsession for the business. So to do that, we developed Above the Line campaign, which I ended up writing myself, which wasn't the plan. And it focused on that obsession and that we're just passionate about what we do, and it comes through in the quality of our products. I started doing that with a very colicky baby on my lap and my 1.5-year-old twins beside me.
Wow.
And it was crazy, but it was amazing. And just being able to talk about the truth, as I said, behind the brand, that passion, I think that really cut through, and it really grew our business a lot within the first year. And part of that as well was growing our team. I managed to find people that were just as passionate as us, not only about the brand, but about what we were producing, which has just been amazing. And to have that energy and that sense of collaboration and camaraderie has been brilliant. I think the second thing we've done more recently is premiumize. So we released Glenhaven Gold, which is inspired by our food service business. So it's restaurant quality Irish chicken fillet tenders. We did a new ad for that, really honing in on the provenance. We created the story of the chicken tender of knowledge, which was fun. And that is a product that we're extremely proud of. It was the first time we ever entered our product into an Irish Food Award. We won gold for the Irish Quality Food and Drink Awards for that product. The Sizzler version of it won bronze. And we won a bronze at Bloss for it as well. So we'd never entered awards for our food before. So it's just amazing for the entire business and for everybody. In that time, we've also launched our coated cheese, which was totally big diversification from us. We've never produced cheese before. We do also supply Subway from our food service side. So that was amazing. We launched 4 cheese products. One of them won a silver at Bloss as well. So premiumizing, watching the trends, and being inspired by, say in that case was the takeaway market, the growth in that, and hot snacking has been really beneficial to us. So yeah.
Ancillary benefits?
I think there's a halo effect from the brand on the entire business, which was something I was pushing when I kind of drove us to kind of invest in it. So that has, I think, also helps us recruit talent, because my dad would have had us fly very low under the radar, and that's how he liked it. I do I can see that side of it, but it's important to build the brand and to grow our network, and that's where Love Irish Food has been amazing as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to come back to you.
Sorry, yeah.
Aoife, how are you? Nice to meet you.
Likewise.
Aoife and I have had conversations recently, but I never knew what she looked like. She looks great. Aoife, tell us about Glenisk, and particularly over the last number of years, you've had obviously huge challenges, but what are the two big things that have happened that have made a difference
I'm
for you?
making a second guess myself because I hadn't thought to mention the fire, but we might get to that as well. So I'm with Glenisk about 10 years, joined originally on the brand and activation side, moved into innovation. In 2017 I was appointed head of sales and more recently joined the board. So I've had kind of a long journey with Glenisk. It's been really, really interesting. I suppose the question that we were asked to consider were two things which have really had the biggest impact on the business. And from that point of view, I think there's two arms to it. One is growing brand, and the other side is relationships. And so from this point of view of growing the brand, for us, that's just all about innovation. It's the lifeblood of the organisation. We've no business going into a busy buyer and giving them a Me Too product. They are not interested in cannibalising the sales they have and annoying an existing supplier. They want incremental sales, and it's our job to give it to them. So to touch on what other speakers have mentioned, the starting point is the consumer demand. And so for me, innovation is kind of 20% inspiration and 80% data. Find out what's going on, find out what's coming down the line, find out how people are living their lives. So very much consumer focused. And I suppose it's hard to imagine it now when there's such a proliferation of products in the category, but back in 2015 when Glenisk launched protein yogurt, there was no such thing. And we delivered about 6 million in incremental sales in the initial period. So that gets a buyer to answer the phone to you pretty quickly when they see those kind of innovations coming onto the market. And that's been really transformative, both for our business, but also for how we stepped up really within the category. And then the second bit, I think, is really all around relationships. When I took over in 2017 as head of sales, I got a very mixed bag of accounts. Relationships were different in different retailers. Some were great because we were giving them a lot of margin. Some were not so great even when we were giving them a lot of margin. And it was my job to kind of fix them. And I think probably lots of people in the room will have had experience of having maybe challenging relationships with buyers or tricky accounts to handle. And you just can't keep butting heads. You have to figure out a way past it and to become a more collaborative partner. So for me, how I addressed it was to try and, I suppose, embed all of my team within the retail organisation. So I put myself in their shoes and I said, what do they want? And the buyer needs insights. So I matched up my category manager with their insights team. I matched up my marketing people with their marketing people. You know, just try and understand every aspect of their business. Go in and sit down with Angus Bate and Tesco, find out how the supply chain side of things works and the ordering and the systems and all of those kind of things. And as you become more knowledgeable about how their business works, you start to understand how you can deliver what they need. And also it helps that you're not trying to navigate one single point where you mightn't necessarily be in the best position depending on the retailer. And reminder that you're not the buyer, you're not doing business with the buyer, you're doing a business with the retailer. So I reset a lot of relationships that way by just becoming more collaborative and figuring out what they wanted. I stopped opening my presentations with a big long story about the background of the business, and I started opening the first slide. Here's the size of the prize. This is the money you can make if you go with this concept, and this is the people who are making for it. So the family slide with the lovely imagery, it's still in the deck, but it's about 4 or 5 slides back. So it's really understanding the retailers and setting those relationships, becoming more strategic partner than transactional. And they were the two really big transformative issues. Yeah.
Super. And on that journey of relationships, where are you? What more have you to do? Or
well, I'm very happy to say that we progressed to becoming category partner with a number of big retailers in business. There's always work to do, and there's always challengers in that arena. But I think that once you've established trust and you've and the retailer has come to depend on you for market data, for insights, for innovation, all of those things, they're hard to unfix once you've established them. And it's really, really important to approach them with the right frame of mind, understanding that it's a marathon, not a sprint, and getting a product listed. Sometimes I'll go in and have a difficult conversation with the retailer and they want to delist something I have, and maybe it's the right thing to delist it. So try not to think of those kind of situations as a tragedy, and figure out what you can do next to help them to deliver what they need for their category.
Yeah, great answer. Mary.
Hi.
This is Mary Sadlier from Coole Swan. So Mary, tell me a little bit about this. This is a one product company. I've never worked in a one product company. So tell us a little bit about the growth of Coole Swan and what are the two things for you?
Company with no manufacturing either. So for people who don't know, I suppose we're a founder. I came to this business by accident because my background is finance, and I'd been involved with the founders, and they had got distracted, and the brand was beginning to fail, but it was on shelves, and so I actually went in as the finance person to try and tidy it up, and potentially actually to wind it up. But in spite of me, the liquid in this bottle was determined to get on the shelves globally and has continued to push us as a company to keep moving forward. So when I got involved, what had happened was these were ex-drinks guys. They had put the brand everywhere. So back to what everybody has said today, it is so true. They had put the brand absolutely everywhere. In fact, it was so everywhere. I got a letter into the office one day about 10 years ago from a woman in Illinois. She was 85 years of age, and she was incensed that Coole Swan could be found in a pole dancing club somewhere in South Illinois. And I thought, wow, how did you know she was in a pole dancing club? And equally, you were incensed that as a customer, Cream Liqueurs would be in a pole dancing club. So there's two parts that I learned very early on: is respect your route to market and respect your customer. Because on both those occasions, the brand should never have been in a pole dancing club, and it should never have offended an 85-year-old customer, 25-year-old customer. We have to be very aware of our customers. So they're my two biggest learnings as an absolute, completely new person to the world of. Now I am married to a farmer, so I came to the world of food through that route. But so we then took the brand. And as I say, in spite of us, it's just continued to grow. We're now fortunately exporting to Canada, the States, Germany. We've recently just made inroads into China. We're in duty free. We're in a lovely position where 10 years on, we're the second biggest liqueur in the Irish market in terms of liqueur and cream liqueur. Our biggest elephant in the room is our competitor, who owns 90% of the market, which means I'm only even fighting for 10%. But I suppose the greatest, what we've learned is stick to your guns, be who you are. We really, really were clear we didn't want to take on the competitor. We were never going to be able to anyway. I don't have that balance sheet. What we wanted to do was bring a high value, really good tasting product to the customer on a consistent basis at a good price. And I'm really proud we've done that, because I think, and some retailers in the room, but I'm very confident we have created the space for a premium cream. And we brought creams back to where they started, which was as a very high quality product to be enjoyed. It got corporatized, so hit a bigger volume, but only for that volume. I wouldn't be sitting here today, because creams are a complicated product in terms of distribution. So I guess my big learnings are mind your route to market, and we're constantly learning that. So we're constantly respectful of our partners. And actually, I thought Barra gave a very good answer today on rate of sale, because this is our constant problem. We're doing brilliantly in Tesco in the UK, but it is constantly, if you don't get your rate of sale up, you can be delisted. But what's very clever is in that sentence, they're telling you how to get your rate of sale up. And it is to understand your metrics on the shelf. And when we moved to that in the last 2 years, and that's back to what Emma was saying, we changed. And like Emma, and I'm glad you said it, we don't lead with the cows in the field. We don't lead with the 5th generation Irish farm. We don't, when we're with our partners, we lead with why this makes commercial sense. to you?
Great. I don't know, will you want to talk about it? You and I had an interesting conversation pre-Christmas about social media. And I'd just love you to talk a little bit about it to people, because it was interesting for me, and just say some of
Yeah,
what.
look, we found our voice in social media. So back to what Porrick was saying, yeah, followers, the problem with followers is like, and back to Meta, how do you get engagement if you don't have followers? So, but we certainly found our voice in social media, and it was a great way. Like, there's only so many billboards, there's only so many newspapers printed, there's only so magazines, whereas social media, and it has got its limitations, but if you can cut through and you can be reasonably disruptive on it without destroying your brand, because it's a thin line. And we're lucky, we're in a good category where you can be a little bit edgy with it. And also the environment has changed, guys, in the last 7 weeks, where being a little bit edgy is actually now quite acceptable. Being a disruptor is quite acceptable. Going up against the norms is now becoming more acceptable. Possibly not the tone we've been used to, and scaling it back a bit. But and social media affords you those. I'm not sure if that answers your question, but there's something in particular that we touched on.
I think the interesting thing that you said to me, that it resonated with me, is that social media is not necessarily there for you to advertise your product. It's there for you to entertain people.
Yeah.
In order that they engage with your product, and that generates awareness. And I just, for me, it was like, yeah.
Actually, on that,
too often we talk about the cows and the farm and
but
whatever.
It's entertainment.
And by the second time you tell that story, it's kind of boring. But actually, if you can keep what you're talking about entertaining, I just thought it was an interesting thing.
Yeah, do you know when I heard that was Michael Corcoran. I was fortunate enough to meet him. He's the guy that Ryanair hired to. Actually, the scariest part, and it goes back to what everybody said to you about customers, the scariest part was I wasn't a Ryanair customer for lots of reasons. I sat in front of him and he said, we targeted people who didn't like Ryanair for all these reasons. And I thought, you targeted me. So, and what was interesting was he converted me, but I never followed Ryanair. So his view was, it is pure entertainment. And if you're using your social media, not your digital advertising. And he came up with this mad statistic, I don't know if it's true, but he said 65% of people use their social media in the toilet. Like, they're on the actual toilet scrolling. And I thought, wow, that's mental. If that is true, and it's a stat that Ryanair hired him to prove, if that is true, and remember, I never once ever went on Ryanair's social media, but there was a vibe about Ryanair. They were beginning to address the issues that people had with them through their quirky social media stuff. So yeah, he said it was down to entertainment. So I stole his, and we use it in our business now.
So I'd throw another one at you. Your I suppose, expectations, how you feel about the future, or the challenges that you see, Emma?
It's a very competitive sector for us. The majority of our competitors are imported in, so that's why it was so important for us to focus on the Irish provenance. Mm-hmm. And it's something that we're still struggling to cut through on, actually. Mm-hmm. A lot of products that are imported, people assume are more Irish than they realise our products are. So that's something that we're working on, trying to figure out how to address that, because often people do want to support the Irish produced brands. So we're trying to figure that out. That's a bit of a challenge. I think it's just, the cost of raw materials, that's always a struggle for us, and something that we have to balance, and particularly at the moment in poultry, but it's nothing that we haven't dealt with before for over 30 years, so we're well used to it. So that's one of the challenges. What was the other question for the future?
How you feel about the future.
We're really positive about it. I think we really consider our rebrand almost much of our brand in a way, because it's quite different to the offering. And so we're kind of early on our journey, we like to think. I think we've got a long way to go. I talked earlier about premiumisation. I think that's essential for us to do, especially producing here in Ireland. It's great to be able to really create the highest calibre of product that we can produce. I see cheese as a big area of growth for us. We started with the buying with Subway, and we launched our branded products, and we're still continuing to grow and develop our products there. So that's a big area of growth for us as well.
Great. I'm going to ask you a different question now, Aoife. So if I was to arrive down and grant you your single wish for the business, what would that be? And why? What would that be?
Well, we referenced at the beginning of the conversation, Glenisk had a pretty devastating fire in September 2021 and the place was burnt to the ground, literally smouldering embers. And so we're still in the process of rebuilding. And as I often say, you can't just go out and buy a yogurt machine off the shelf. Everything takes 2 years to buy and 6 months to be commissioned. And so we're playing catch up to a certain extent. The orders are rolling in and the demand is huge, and we're trying to build our capacity back up. And we're very lucky and fortunate that we have had our retail partners, Tesco, really at the helm of that in supporting us with our comeback, holding space on shelf for us and really supporting that comeback. But our biggest issue currently is that we cannot get our hands on enough organic milk to meet the demand that's out there. So we are spending a lot of money and a lot of time on a lot of projects to try and convince farmers to convert, and there's a lot of different elements to that. But if anybody has any dairy farmers in their wider family who would like to talk to us about converting to organic, we have a wing of the business that's devoted to that. So that would be my wish list, so we could get the raw material we need.
All right. And I suppose you were, Mary, for her sins, is also a board member of Love Irish Food. So if you had a wish for Love Irish Food and the members in Love Irish Food, what would that be, Mary?
First of all, I'd love to know every member that's here today, because I think it's a huge community. I mean, I think it's fabulous we're all sitting here. Go back to the point about collaborating. I think that's extraordinary, but we don't meet each other. My issue is we're so busy. Like, I even struggled during the week to say, I've made a New Year commitment to go to everything, be out more than I'm in, be on the business, not in it. Now that is way easier said than done. I feel like Paul Daniels up here, because I don't know how we're able to do it, but you have to do it. So I'd love to know who everybody is. If we get a chance today, everybody stand up and say their business name. I'd love to collaborate with all of you, because alcohol, our cream liqueur goes with everything. There's a product in this that would not happily get into bed unashamedly, and that's my new business card, by the way. And that has been, guys, that's costing me nothing. And it has been the single biggest driver of business for us in the last 5 or 6 months, both at trade and with consumers. Anyway, I'll put that thought out there. But yeah, I just think more collaboration. And you asked the question about the future. Guys, all of us were our future was this time last year. We didn't know what 24 was going to be. Your future was 1998. And I'm looking at Kieran here. When you started Love Irish Foods, who knew? I mean, they're extraordinary numbers that Barra put up. And well done, Kieran, because like you started it, I know when I met you, there was tumbleweed coming up the road. Do you know, we were still at that stage where it was such a good idea, but back to it, Emma, and what we've been saying is you don't, like, it takes ages to build a brand. It takes a long time to do this. So yeah, 2025 is going to be the past in 12 months' time, and we're going to get through it with bells on.